In a world that's all about swiping right and falling hard fast.
But what if that instinct is just wrong? What if slowing down, even with all this cultural pressure to speed up, is actually the smartest, kindest, and even the most logical way to find a love that's actually going to last?
And let's be real, that pressure is everywhere. Modern culture is constantly telling us to just throw caution to the wind. Forget all that old-fashioned stuff. Just follow your heart. But here's the thing. Maybe our hearts are just a little more complicated than that. And that right there brings us to the real core of this whole thing. What we could call love's terrifying reality. Because see, it's not all just butterflies and delight. There's something way deeper and honestly more primal going on.
Okay, so here's the fundamental truth of it all. Love can absolutely terrify us just as much as it delights us. It's this incredible, two-sided force. We're drawn to it, of course, but deep down, we're also kind of afraid of it. We're just as tempted to run away from it as we are to run towards it.
So why? Why is love so scary? Well, it really just boils down to one word: vulnerability. It's this idea of standing completely helpless in front of another person, right? Opening yourself up to a very real, very unique risk of just complete devastation. I mean, that is a huge risk to take.
So think about it. When the potential for getting your heart broken is that high, being cautious isn't being mean. It's not cold. It's logical. It's actually the most sane response you can have to a pretty insane amount of risk. Okay, so this fear, it tends to push us into one of two extremes when it comes to relationships. We either just rush in head first, or we back away completely. So let's break down why that happens. This really breaks down the two archetypes that are born from that fear. So on one side, you've got the withdrawer. Maybe their childhood taught them that love is this scarce, unpredictable thing. So as an adult, when someone shows them real affection, it's overwhelming. They retreat just to feel safe. Then on the other side, you have the rusher. Their early life might have taught them that love is super fragile, that it can just disappear. So their strategy? They use this huge, over-the-top devotion to try and prevent that loss, all driven by this deep-seated fear of being abandoned. And I love this metaphor for the withdrawer. Imagine someone offers you a whole banquet of love, right? Course after course of affection and care. For the withdrawer, the first response isn't joy. It's more like nausea. It's just too much. It's too rich. And their gut instinct, their survival instinct, is to push the entire table away. And what about the rusher? Well, they move at lightning speed. But it's not always just about pure passion. A lot of the time, it's about staying one step ahead of their own self-disgust. All those grand gestures, they're really a way to lock the other person down before, their own flaws can be discovered. All right, so if those are the two extremes, both driven by fear, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to what we can call the path of patience. And it's all about finding that healthy, beautiful middle ground. And this is what we're really aiming for: mature love. It lives right in that sweet spot, that beautiful middle zone between that panicked rush and that fearful withholding. And its hallmarks? They're not anxiety or distance, they're confidence, calm, and this quiet sense of self-possession. So what does that actually feel like inside your own head? Well, a healthy lover might think something like, I really like this person, but I don't actually know them yet. Or maybe, I really want them to stick around, but I know deep down I'd be okay without them. There's an attraction for sure, but there's no frantic, desperate need to act on it right this second. The core belief is just so simple and calming. There's time. There will be time. Okay, that calm, patient mindset sounds amazing, right? But for a lot of us, maybe most of us, it does not come naturally. So the big question is, how do we actually learn to go slow? Let's get into how we can cultivate that patience. And this is so important to get. For most of us, especially if our upbringing wasn't super reliable or loving, this kind of patience is not an instinct. It's a skill we have to learn. It's a conscious, compassionate choice we have to make over and over again. So here's a practical guide: 4 steps to help you cultivate that slowness. First step, acknowledge your instincts. You gotta know, are you more of a rusher or withdrawer? Step 2, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. You're learning something new here. 3, communicate your hesitations honestly. It is absolutely okay to say, hey, I need to take my time. And finally, step 4, when it feels right, take a thoughtful risk. And you know what? When you start doing this, something pretty incredible starts to happen. You start to feel more certain that you have so much to offer. And just as important, you realize you're strong enough to survive rejection if it happens.
that deep, core fear of devastation, it starts to lose its grip on you. And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. When you build that inner security, you suddenly realize you can afford to delay. You can afford to explore. Taking it slow stops being about withholding something from someone else, and it becomes a luxury, a gift you can give yourself. It becomes a sign of strength, not of fear.
So I want to leave you with this to think about. If you actually gave yourself permission to slow down, to really, truly take your time, what could you discover? About love, sure, and about another person, but maybe most importantly, what could you discover about yourself?